Disclaimer. All content on this channel is created solely for entertainment and information purposes. Some stories may contain scenes of violence, a description of traumatic events, or be entirely fictional. The channel is not intended to glorify criminals, humiliate victims, or promote cruelty. Viewers with hypersensitivity, as well as children, are not recommended to watch unaccompanied by adults. All coincidences with real events or persons are accidental, unless otherwise stated explicitly. The authors are not responsible for the use of the information from the video in any way other than familiarization. He Who Comes at 3:17. Location: quiet suburb Greendale, Michigan. Event time: October 2019 to February 2021. Number of victims: 7 confirmed. Method: strangulation with wire and ritual symbols at the crime scene. Identification of the first victim. On October 21, 2019, 28-year-old nurse Laura Gibson was found dead in her apartment. Her body lay on the bed, facing the ceiling, her hands raised behind her head, her fingers clenched into a fist. There is a deep trace of thin steel wire on the neck. On the wall is a symbol drawn with blood, similar to an inverted triangle with a dash inside. The police initially saw it as a ritual murder or a case of jealousy. But nothing was lost. There was no sign of struggle. The door is not broken. Video from the cameras. At 3:17 a.m., a figure in a black cloak was recorded entering the entrance. There was no way out. The pattern appears. Over the next 14 months, 5 more women and 1 man were killed. Everyone is single. Everyone was strangled equally, with no signs of struggle, no signs of penetration. What united them? Everyone was allergic to pollen, a strange coincidence, which will be the key later. Everyone at the crime scene had the same symbols. The cameras equally recorded the appearance of the figure in dark clothes exactly at 3:17 a.m. each time. The case is taken under control. Detective Marion Walker, a former FBI agent who has returned from retirement, joins the case. She immediately suspects that the killer uses the keys or has access to the victim's personal data. She asks to raise the history of all those who died in the last 2 years with the same type of death. It turns out that 3 more were not related to the case, but were killed similarly, even before the first official victim. Breakthrough in the case. In December 2020, Detective Walker notices that all the victims visited the same allergy clinic, Novaderm. The registry administrator is Richard Elms, a silent, 42-year-old single man who has been working there since 2016. The detective puts him under surveillance. Fatal error. In February 2021, at the site of the 7th murder, investigators for the first time find a microscopic fragment of a hand gel, a rare stamp that was only used in the Novaderm clinic. It was enough to get a warrant to search Richard Elms' apartment. In the beast's lair. In Elms' apartment are found a detailed map with the addresses of the victims, 23 skeins of steel wire, diaries where he describes every murder, calling himself a purifier. Photos of bodies after the murders. Clock set to 3:17 that played the melody of church bells. Arrest and trial. Richard Elms was arrested on February 16, 2021. He was silent at the interrogations. His lawyer demanded that he be declared insane. But during the trial, Elms suddenly spoke. "I didn't kill. I fired. They were sick with fear. I treated." In November 2022, he was found guilty of 7 murders and sentenced to life imprisonment without the right to parole. Afterward, Detective Walker retired the day after the sentence. Her last words to journalists: "Monsters are not always the ones that hide in the forest. Sometimes it's the one who takes your blood pressure and says, 'Have a nice day.'" Next story. He lived on one of the safest streets in the city. Neighbors called him Calm John. He sewed costumes, shoes, and smiled at children. But when the doors of his studio closed, horror began, which even the darkest film had not seen. In 2009, a 19-year-old student, Grace Murphy, disappeared in the small American town of Brookdale. She left the library at 9:10 p.m. and disappeared without a trace. Her body was found 4 weeks later in the woods, 30 miles from the city. The hands were neatly folded on the chest, and an old button was lying next to it. The police decided that she became the victim of an accidental rapist. But what seemed like a single tragedy was the beginning of a series of murders that kept the police in suspense for the next 12 years. From 2009 to 2021, 6 more women disappeared within a radius of 80 miles, all young, dark-haired, with the same leg size. Their bodies appeared later, always neatly laid, with clean hands, no signs of struggle, and next to them, buttons, laces or pieces of cloth. The FBI called him the Button Man. They searched for a maniac with a fetish on fabrics or clothes, checked dry cleaners, stylists and tailors. But no profile matched. Cameras, DNA, witnesses, everything seems to be against them. In the center of Brookdale was a small tailor's workshop, Ritter and Sons. The owner, 52-year-old John Ritter, was an Army veteran, had a son, who had long gone to Canada, and lived alone. He sewed uniforms for the local police, repaired clothes for the elderly free of charge, and sewed dresses for the winner of the local beauty contest every summer. His workshop was one of those that still accepted cash and knew each client by name. Police even questioned him in 2012 as a witness because he was repairing the coat of one of the victims. But John had the perfect alibi: the cameras from the coffee shop across the road, the check from the workshop, even the testimony of the priest. Then he was released. Police even questioned him in 2012 as a witness because he was repairing the coat of one of the victims. But John had the perfect alibi: the cameras from the coffee shop across the road, the check from the workshop, even the testimony of the priest. Then he was released. The clothes of all the missing girls are perfectly folded. Polaroid photos of bodies, even before they were found. John's diaries, where he detailed the process, calling it cleansing the body of the disorder of the world. A collection of fabrics related to victims. Why wasn't he caused? Psychologists will later say, John Ritter was an organized sociopath with a fixation on purity, control and visual symmetry. He did not kill because of the rage, he restored, as he wrote in the diary. The process itself was a ritual. In all murders, he avoided any bodily harm. He dressed the victims in the fabrics that he himself sewed. Thoroughly cleared the crime scene. And he always left a symbol, a detail of clothing, a button, a lace, a shoulder pad. Postscript, symbolism and motivation. Last entry in the diary. Each of them was spoiled by the world. I only helped them become part of the perfect canvas. Clothes don't lie. People always. He was considered a simple tailor for 12 years. But he didn't just sew clothes, he built his own gallery of human bodies, fabric and fear. And the worst thing about this story is how easily we ignore monsters if they are polite, neat and good at sewing costumes. Subscribe if you like to solve dark secrets. And remember, real monsters often wear the best jackets.